Hello, welcome to our presentation. My name is Spencer D'Alessio, and I, along with my colleagues Briana Melendez and Maria Morgana, would like to talk to you about motivation and the two types of motivation, extrinsic and intrinsic. We will also like to talk about their impact on student learning. We will be providing a definition of what these concepts are, the pros and cons associated with them, and the technology that incorporates these concepts into the learning. I'd like to begin this discussion by providing a general definition of what motivation is. According to Ormrod, motivation is an internal state that arouses us to action. It pushes us in particular directions and keeps us engaged in certain activities. Now, according to Uffler, Bartier, and Bellaccia, extrinsic motivation is a kind of motivation which is external to the person concerned. And as you can see here in this diagram, some extrinsic motivation factors are money, good grades, praise, and career. Now, intrinsic motivation, according to Ormrod, lies within the individual and task. The person finds a task enjoyable and worthwhile in and of itself. Now, in the diagram over here, you can see some intrinsic motivation factors are a sense of achievement, curiosity, interest, or pride. Now, I provided two little examples of what extrinsic and intrinsic motivation are. Now, in this video clip on the left, Joe needs to mow the lawn and get the grounds ready for the big game tomorrow night, but he's just not motivated to do it. So Jay, his partner, has found a way to get him motivated so the grounds will look great when the fans show up tomorrow night. So here he is, and as you can see, Jay comes over, hands Joe the money. Joe takes the money and he's off and running. Now in this picture on the right is Taylor. She's an avid gym goer. So I had asked her, I said, Taylor, what gets you motivated to go to the gym every day? And her response to me was, she just enjoys the whole idea of taking care of herself and making sure that she's living a healthy and full life. And she also told me that she really enjoys the challenge of tackling those difficult exercises, those exercises that she thought that she'd never be able to do. And she also said that it not only challenges her body, it also challenges her mind, which I found pretty interesting. Now, what are some key concepts associated with these two factors, extrinsic and intrinsic motivation? Well, according to Ormrod, extrinsically motivated students may exert only the minimal behavior. Essentially, the students will only put forth the effort just to get the task done or to attain that reward. Once that reward is taken away or is no longer available, they generally will just stop working. Intrinsic motivation is more advantageous because the student is motivated, wants to learn, and enjoys learning, enjoys the whole process of learning. And they're more able to deal with adversity and look at challenges and setbacks as a chance to learn and grow. And as Turner says here, all individuals are drawn to some form of motivation, whether intrinsic, extrinsic, or a combination of both. Now for a discussion on the pros and cons associated with these concepts, I will now hand this presentation over to Briana. Briana?
Hi everyone, my name is Briana Melendez, and now that Spencer has defined the terms of extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons. Some pros of extrinsic motivation is that it can promote successful learning and productive behaviors. These productive behaviors happen quickly because once the reward is given, the behavior can change. Through the use of these rewards, extrinsic motivation doesn't require a lot of time or preparation. It is beneficial to use extrinsic motivation if a student lacks interest in a specific topic. The outside rewards can increase the chances of engagement even if the student isn't interested in the topic being taught. However, there are cons to extrinsic motivation. It is overall a short-term solution. In order to maintain a student's interest and motivation, the rewards must be escalated over time. The students who are extrinsically motivated would be more likely to give minimal behavioral and cognitive effort. The student will often look for just a reward. If the reward is gone, the motivation would be lost. The student will find their motivation in external things and will no longer use their intrinsic motivation to guide their behavior. Extrinsically motivated learners often look for the approval of others to feel a sense of self-worth. This can happen in classrooms when competitions arise. Now, here are some pros of intrinsic motivation. Intrinsically motivated learners use all learning strategies in order to complete the tasks within their learning environment. Intrinsically motivated learners often achieve more academically and are more likely to be happy and emotionally healthy. This is because they are enjoying what they're doing. Intrinsic motivation has been associated with long-term achievement, mastery goals, voluntary work and educational tasks, and lower rates of dropping out or skipping class. While most people think intrinsic motivation is the most ideal motivation, there are some cons. Implementing intrinsic motivation is a lengthy process. This is because intrinsic motivation is slow to affect behavior. The behavioral changes won't occur as quickly compared to extrinsic motivation. Since every student has different interests, a variety of approaches would be needed to implement intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation also requires long-term planning. In order to know what students are interested in, the teachers would need to get to know their students. This takes time. You won't be able to implement intrinsic motivation on the first day of school and maybe not even within the first month of school. As the months go on and the teachers get to know their students, it will be easier to implement intrinsic motivation. I will now hand this project off to Maria, who will talk about how to integrate technology with extrinsic and intrinsic motivation.
Welcome to the technology integration part of our presentation. Did I get you to look twice? Part of our job, a huge part of our job, is finding ways to motivate our students. This way happened to cost me $2. Yep, this is a tablecloth or two from the dollar store, an app, and our Google Slides presentation. So stay tuned to hear about how we can use these simple ways to motivate our students. Your typical classroom today is 25 to 30 students. That's 30 different personalities, 30 different learning styles, different interests, different motivations. And more often than not, our curriculum doesn't allow for a ton of choices. So how do we target the needs of our students? How do we get students who are both extrinsically and intrinsically motivated without spending hours that we don't have individualizing the curriculum 30 different ways? The answer, technology. But technology could be overwhelming. So how do we choose a technology that's right for us and right for our students? I like to look at it in 4 different ways. First, when I'm looking at a tech, I think about my students. What's my demographic? Yes, there's tons of learning styles, but some learning styles work better with certain groups. So know your students and know their interests. The second thing I look at when I'm looking at tech is the teaching style. Yes, you have to look at yourself. Sometimes technology seems super appealing, but does it really fit your style? What are your goals? Student participation, mastery of skills, collaboration. You need to target your goals first before you can look at different tech. The third thing I look at is interaction. What technologies will enhance the interaction between you and your students, between students to students, and between students and the course material? The fourth thing that I look at is the ease of use. Some technology requires more planning than others. However, you need to choose technology that's going to be easy to maintain and incorporate into your already established curriculum. It's a lot to look at, but we're going to look at a few different ways on how we can find some low-tech solutions to motivate your students. Like Briana and Spencer have mentioned, there are pros and cons to both extrinsically motivated students and intrinsically motivated ones. As educators and even parents, we extrinsically motivate our students or children all the time. At home, this might be using video games as a reward, and at school, students might be working towards adding marbles to a jar to earn a prize like a movie day. Ormrod says, it directs behavior toward particular goals. And that's what we're doing. First, you have to ask yourself, though, what am I trying to achieve in my classroom? If you don't know the goals, how should we expect our students to know the goals? Providing our students with options will help keep interest for longer. A prize might lose its value over time, so changing it up and offering a variety of options will help keep students motivated. Offer tech options when possible. Knowing the personality of our students will help us provide them with the right kind of choices or rewards. This might be board games, video games, or even earning a messenger job in the classroom. The goal is that extrinsic motivation over time will be replaced by intrinsic motivation. So make sure the efforts are measurable. Check out apps like Class Dojo to help measure behavior. Badges, even within the game, are super motivating in and of themselves. A really big topic when it comes to motivating students and providing them with rewards is the idea of competition. The goal for educators is to enforce competency over competition, and there's a fine line sometimes that overlaps. Games like Kahoot and quizzes are both free and interactive. They allow educators to create multiple choice questions or choose from a library of already established ones. Results can be displayed live, or quizzes can be assigned for homework. In these games, students are given points for correct answers, for speed of answering questions, and even the difficulty of them. Students earn rewards within the game and are given words of encouragement between questions. A leaderboard can be displayed or held private for the teacher. This is where the teacher has to ask themselves, is showing the leaderboard motivating my students, or is it creating an anxiety-ridden environment? Giving students individual goals rather than a class goal is an extrinsic motivator. Ask each student, where do you want to be? By letting students choose their own goals, you're providing them with an ownership that will hopefully translate and be internalized. Approach is important. If a game adds life to your lesson, students are more likely to be engaged and motivated. It's kind of like how I used the green screen in the first half of my part of the presentation. It was simple. Did it add information to my presentation? It didn't. But did it captivate you? I'd like to think that it did. Another huge goal is to help our students become more independent. Incorporate technology that helps students become independent learners and thinkers. If you're incorporating a technology that is making students rely too heavily on you, rethink it. Not every piece of technology is going to work or be the right fit for your particular group of students. Choose technology that encourages students to collaborate. Ormrod on the general effects of motivation said, it affects cognitive processes, such as what learners pay attention to and how much they think about it and elaborate on it. Google Drive, Google Hangouts, and even social media platforms like Twitter allow students to collaborate freely. Students do need direction, and that's where you come in. Giving students different jobs and responsibilities in the collaborating process will start to shape their thinking and their motivations. Students will be guided to feel a certain responsibility toward their group and hold one another accountable. Give students the language, the platform, and the praise, and the rest will come, including the motivation.